The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Reproduction or dissemination, other than for the purpose of education or information without the express written permission of the Phoenix Research Institute or Nova Society Media, is strictly prohibited.
And welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bount. We were just talking, and Scott was asking, what are people concerned about? What are our listeners asking for? And Mark, you were saying that people want our responses to what the Democrats are doing and what our recommendations would be for the Democrats. A lot of our listeners are extremely angry at Chuck Schumer and what he did regarding his change of stance for the federal government's remaining open. I actually called his office and left a very long, I don't know if it was a very long voicemail, and left a voicemail telling him to vote no and not to side with the Republicans. And obviously my phone call did not make any difference. So, Mark.
Oh, well.
Mark and Scott.
Well, there's a surprise.
Yeah. This is the problem. So what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good topic because one of the things that we had been led to understand was that the Democratic Party was going to say, hey, look, they control the House and they control the Senate and they control the White House and they've got the judges. Let them do their thing. And we're just sitting this one out. And don't ask us to do anything because we're not voting for anything on your agenda right now. You know, you're going to have to find your own way of prioritizing this. And obviously, this has been a very big do nothing Congress so far. They've only passed 2 bills. It's mid-March, and one of those bills is the CR, is the extension. I don't even know what the other one is. But whatever it was, they have not passed any immigration reform, which, you know, we know that Trump was running on it, right? We know that Trump killed it during the Biden administration because he wanted to run on immigration. Now he's won the race. He is the president. He's got the House. He's got the Senate. Why isn't he rolling out that immigration reform? Why is he relying on executive orders to do his work here? It doesn't make any sense. And so the idea was the Democrats are just going to kick back and allow the Republicans to run the government. James Carville suggested it was like playing possum. Just lie down, play dead, and let the Republicans' bad agenda do the work for the Democrats. And then the next thing we know, Chuck Schumer is voting with them. And that whole plan is kaput. It's gone. And it doesn't make any sense. So they're completely in disarray in Washington, D.C., these Republicans, completely without an idea. I mean, these Democrats completely without an idea of how to run as an opposition party, which is what they are right now. They are the opposition party, and they want to resist the worst impulses that Trump has, but they didn't do that. On the other hand, Mark, if you don't mind, just one more point. On the other hand, Schumer might have been right. If they shut down this government, that we may have never gotten the government back up and running again. And that is a legit fear, because what the Republican agenda is to privatize everything. And now all of a sudden, with no government running anything, it might be really palatable to people to say, or to hear anyway, let's privatize the park system. Instead of having national parks, we'll have privately owned parks that people can run for profit and, you know, maybe run better than the government runs it. Although I don't think I've ever heard anybody have a real big problem with the national parks. They're supposedly one of our best assets. But running these various departments and things on a private basis, and a couple of I think it was Scott Bessent said that at one point. It's time it's time to retire the public sector and let the private sector take over a lot of these things, right? So we're already kind of seeing it with NASA and SpaceX. We're seeing it, I think, with the FAA as Elon Musk is claiming more and more, competence than anybody else has to run the air traffic control system for the entire country, et cetera, et cetera. And so now we're not debating that on the merits, right? But we are saying that shutting down the government at this point, which would have happened had the Democrats not come in the Senate and voted the way they did, led by Chuck Schumer, would have been a good excuse for them to seek to privatize what has until now been public.
Yes, Scott, I had heard that about the government staying permanently closed. And the other concern is that if the government were to have closed down, the court system also closes down. And that is the end of any possible bulwark against the regime, although the regime certainly isn't listening. For example, to Judge Boasberg, the deportation of people continues, but without a functioning court system, then there is no withstanding of anything that Trump and his Trumpophites want to do. As you said, there's no guarantee that the government ever would have reopened. I think it also quite likely that Trump would simply have gone ahead and done whatever he wanted to do, irrespective of whether the government was open or closed, because he certainly seems to be sweeping ahead with everything he wants to do, regardless of whatever damage he's doing and regardless of any effort or any consequences or any effort to stop him. I think part of it was certainly a messaging issue, and it's certainly, from among the Democrats themselves, there was a major issue that Schumer did not make clear to the rest of the party, and a united front was absolutely necessary. And it may have been that regardless of which way the Democratic Party voted, it would have been a disaster. In his position, I honestly don't know what I would have done. I don't know which is worse. I'm using the vote to gain leverage, but then there's no guarantee that anything that the Democrats say that the Democratic Party might have wanted to use for leverage would have been honored by the Republican Party, because the Republican Party doesn't honor what they say they're going to do anyway. They're not even listening to their own constituents. So I honestly don't know. But I think that for Schumer to have said, yeah, I'm going to do one thing, and then to do another was highly unwise in terms of his own credibility. And he did not lay out to the American people or to his own party what exactly his reasoning was, what all the consequences were, and what the risks and benefits were, and what his difficulties in making this decision were. Mark, what do you say?
I say that the emails which I receive about this from the listeners basically say that the Democrats are, as Scott says, very bad at being the opposition party. And there was a lot of anger toward the Democrats because of this just play possum attitude that James Carville came up with. They don't want to play possum because their attitude is that show us that you've got a backbone. We've been talking about Republicans showing that they need to show that they have a backbone to stand up to some of these things that are going on. And yes, if you watch some of the Democratic town halls, it's not a friendly atmosphere. It is not a friendly atmosphere. They cannot be the do-nothing opposition party. That I truly believe is a bad strategy on their part. They should look like they're fighting this every step of the way. And playing possum is just not the way to do it. And it's beginning to show in the mood of their own constituents, the Democrats, that they have a problem with this do nothing. And if we look at the recent numbers just came out, Democratic Party approval rating 29%. It is falling. And it is falling because they are being seen as the what's your purpose party? Why are you even there? Now, as Scott points out, it's very possible that Schumer voted for very good reason. Because, yes, very easily they could have just shut down the federal government and then never reopened it. No doubt about that at all. It is possible they're looking to privatize pretty much everything that they possibly can, get it out of the federal government. Now, I would say to people that think that's such a great idea, privatizing does not mean that, like, say, the park system, which I totally agree, I think is run absolutely wonderful. It's one of our national treasures, something that we should really be proud of as a country. But if that's privatized, now the amount of money to get in is going to be higher. Right now, your federal taxes help pay for some of the costs of running these national parks. So you pay, of course, an admission fee for many of them. But imagine if there was no federal funding for it, a private company who is for profit, and let's remember, the government is not for profit. At least it's supposed to be. Just think of how much that ticket to get into that national park that you love so much is going to go up. So it's a matter of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Sure, looks great. And for those who don't attend national parks, they probably don't care. They probably say, hey, yeah, those people going to national parks should have to pay the higher price. That's up to them. But it is one of the treasures of the United States that would completely go away. And that would be truly a shame for something that's really existed for almost 125 years. So you got to think these things through. But as far as the Democrats are concerned, and really this is the root of the question, what can they do? What is the strategy? I was watching one of the town halls, and the constituent got basically up and said, listen, we know that when you're talking to us, you have to be judicious in your language. We know that you have to be kind and you have to be respectful. When you're dealing with these people who aren't respectful of anybody, cut it out. We don't want, Mr. Nice Guy. We want the angel of damn darkness to go against these things. And even though you constantly say, well, we're in the minority, there's nothing we can do, at least it can appear like you're actually doing something. And I think that's why Democrats are really beginning to move away. And I think that's why Democrat popularity and their approval rating is so low.
Yeah. And once again, you see Bernie Sanders leading the way, at least going out publicly, holding rallies, getting people together. And it's my contention that my U.S. Senator Chris Murphy should join him on that and learn how to do what Bernie does so well, which is be the opposition. Bernie is the perfect opposition. I don't know if Bernie could run anything, but he's really good at opposition. And he's been opposing stuff all his life for like 40 years or so. You can probably find, if there was a bad mistake that the U.S. government made, that there's video of Bernie Sanders shouting about it before it happens. And it's just what he does so well. So, the Republicans don't know how to run anything. And the one, by the way, I did look it up. The one other piece of legislation besides the CR that they passed was the Lake and Riley Act, which basically makes murder illegal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a new one. It is a new one.
Well,
But it does some other stuff that's a little bit more egregious, to rights, to human rights, civil rights, justice rights, so on and so forth, due process and all that. And there were a couple of Democrats that voted for it, like Ruben Gallego, and there were most of them voted against it. but it is now the law. And so without, the Democrats are a little hamstrung by the fact that they don't know how to oppose anything, and the Republicans don't know how to run anything. So they can't pass any legislation, or they're not even interested in legislation. And there's nothing to oppose, because if they're not interested in legislation, how are you as a senator or a congressman or congressperson, how are you opposing anything? There's no bill to oppose. So everybody is kind of stuck in this weird situation where obviously all the oxygen is coming out of the room, being sucked in by Donald Trump, who's doing whatever he wants to do, and the courts are the only guardrail against it. And that's kind of where the opposition is right now.
Isn't Tim Walz also Minnesota governor? Isn't he also doing town halls?
Yeah, I think there are a number of people doing town halls, but
in Republican areas. Jasmine Crockett also, since the Republicans aren't going out and doing it themselves. I thought Jasmine Crockett was going out. So there are a number of individuals who are. And I saw another candidate for mayor, Zoram Mamdani, looking at him this morning. He is from New York. He's a New York State representative, and he is running for New York State mayor. And he was very vituperative and yelling and shouting about Mahmoud Khalil and the removal of freedom of speech, the First Amendment. Very vocal about it. And he's gotten a lot of very cruel very cruel voicemails that are really unnecessary, of course, and not supportive of his position.
But that's how Republicans oppose. They make death threats. They get on, they get on people. They really do most of it on social media, or making telephone calls where they threaten people's lives and stuff like that. People on both sides of the aisle have been talking about that for a pretty long time now, that whenever anybody goes on Fox News and a whole bunch of Republicans see them on it, whatever party they're on, if those people disagree with what they have to say, they don't just get like hate mail, they get death threats. And so that's the Republican style of opposition, is death threats. And the Democrats is to roll over and play dead. It's a healthy situation all around.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or a comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Priscilla Hobbs, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of us here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social political issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.